The CIF training that I've been going through has really helped me understand that as a parent, I have to, just like with any other child, put my own ideas about success, my own ideas of what he might want for the future. I have to put those things aside, and I have to really listen to him.
When they say hope starts here, it's true. I mean, you learn hopes and dreams for this young person, and how do you harness some power for change with people you have gifts and talents in common with, and just put it out there for your community. These young adults have their own apartments, have jobs, they have intimate relationships, they have homes that they can choose to let people in or out. And when we tell people that, they stop saying, wow, that's really exciting. And they start saying, well, of course he does.
We want our children to have the same choice as any other individual, any other human being that is pursuing happiness in life.
I think that's the biggest part of what CIF does in terms of interdependence and sustainability, is this concept that you are a fabric of your community and we can do this better. We're very lucky to be moms of these two boys, cousins, and to have found Jane and Anne and the entire staff so supportive.
We've got an idea about what our structure would look like, and we brought in two ideas. You know, we want to do either a house that has 5 to 6 bedrooms or a small apartment complex so that we can have more people living in the building and really have community interdependence.
My son, he's still very much kind of in a bubble, and so I want to burst that bubble, so to speak. I want to get him out and within our own neighborhood.
We really want a life like any other for all of our community members. It's how do we build it into our master plan.
My son will be able to make friends, just like Max has, and that when they get ready to transition, he won't be reduced to living in a facility where he's living with strangers.
We want to set the example for other families, because I think that once they can really see it and they can see that it's working, then they can start to believe that they can achieve that for themselves.
Welcome, everyone, to this session, Living and Thriving with Person-Centered Supports, Moving Beyond COVID-19. Just a few comments before we get going. My name is Jay. I'm your technical support guy. Now, during this session, you may ask questions at any time by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. There's also a chat button that you may use to communicate with presenters and attendees, similar to a discussion board. When sending a chat, you have the option to send just to the presenters or to panelists and all attendees. There's a drop down in the to field of the chat panel. Presenters will respond to questions in the Q&A box, so be sure to use that for any questions you have. And if you need assistance at any time, please use the Q&A box as well. Thank you, and now I'll turn it over to our presenters as soon as I stop sharing my screen. You can start your cameras and mute your mics and start your microphones. Thank you.
All right. Well, greetings, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good Friday and having a good time at the TASH conference. I am here along with Melanie Miles. And Melanie, you got your mute off. You can share that off now to make sure you're ready to go.
Yeah, living and thriving with person-centered supports, moving beyond COVID-19. Melanie Miles and Scott Shepard, Avenues Living Services 2020 TASH Conference.
All right, and that's a picture of you on the left.
At the Ventura Beach.
Awesome. Okay, so Mel, I'm going to take over the first few slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to you for your presentation. All right?
Okay.
Okay, so Melanie and I are out in the North LA County area of California, and we're with Avenue Supported Living Services, and we support 27 people with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities that all live in their own place. We've been doing person-centered services since we began providing supported living services back in 1993, and that's really made it a lot easier for us to be able to adapt to a lot of the restrictions and things going on with COVID. And it's also, I think, been using person-centered supports, as we'll talk about, has made it a lot easier for us to help people to re-engage into their essential routines, and for some folks to continue working and doing their volunteer jobs and things like that as well, which are really essential. So again, what we found is that most people are understandably frustrated by the changes and restrictions in their essential routines, and especially with employment and volunteering. We've seen that people who have been able to keep their essential jobs and routines have coped the best. While we've had some initial coaching challenges around new safety rules like wearing masks, social distancing, taking temperatures, which all of you have done the same thing, and how to learn how to stand on that spot at the bank or the grocery store so we keep our social distancing. We've been doing that from the early stages of COVID to make sure that everybody can be safe and responsible as they access their essential community routines and continue to work and things like that. And so that's what we're going to share a little bit about. How have we done that? How have we helped people to continue to engage in those essential work duties? So again, work and volunteerism and other essential routines continue to be important to and for people, especially for people with disabilities. And we've seen that, again, Jareth on the left, who's continued to work at Target throughout COVID, we found that once Jareth learned all the guidelines and what he's got to do to keep safe at work, and they provide that additional training to him as well, along with our coaches, he's having a great time. His life has not been significantly impacted from COVID. He's able to still, he's taken 3 trips during COVID, including one last week to visit his girlfriend on the train, about a 2-hour train trip. And they've been able to have safe and responsible visits together and have a good time. And he saved up his work earnings to be able to do that. So he's really, he's really continues to have the life he wants. And the only thing he's a little frustrated with is, unlike most of us, he's got enough money to have a Disneyland pass. So he's a little frustrated that Disneyland in California, at least, has not opened up at this point. And he's waiting for that to happen. And then David continues to work at Ralph's. He's been there for over 12 years. We'll talk a little bit about his story in a moment. Javin has continued to work at the Dollar Tree, and that's really important to him. So he still gets a paycheck. Although Javin does call me every day to wonder when the vaccine's going to happen and when COVID's going to be over. And we've got to share with people, COVID's going to be around. So we just have to learn how to deal with it and how to cope with it. And then on the right, Melanie's going to share a little bit of her story a little bit too. And that's Melanie working at our Avenues office. So the things that we've learned is that there's really no quick fixes. There's no one size fits all answers. And the nice thing about that is that's why person-centered supports work. So each person, each team, and each family have different needs and different levels of comfortability. So it's been important that each individual, family, and team, including coaches or teachers and staff, are listened to and collaborating to identify safe and responsible ways to assist people to rejoin their essential jobs and routines. So our question became, how do we re-engage people safely and responsibly in their essential routines that they need and enjoy? Okay, instead of just saying, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, we look at, okay, what are the existing guidelines? What's the comfort level on the team? What safety measures need to be in place in order for people to re-engage in the things they enjoy? So you can see Toby in the bottom left has rejoined working with the Salvation Army at the food bank, and they really need his help unloading the truck and getting food out as an essential volunteer. And so he's learned how to do that safely and responsibly. He loves the social interaction. He loves to be able to contribute to his community. And Heather is distributing some flyers for a volunteer opportunity she has with Souls for Souls. It's an international volunteer effort to collect slightly used shoes. So she's handing out flyers during COVID. And Julie on the right is putting together some of those flyers, again, for Souls for Souls. So we still make sure that everybody's got some meaningful and productive things that they can do throughout COVID. One of the first things we did was we had some person-centered meetings on Zoom. Everybody's familiar with Zoom by now. And we tried to use them really with each team and family and people we support. And we asked people to identify 1 or 2 specific routines that they wanted to re-engage in, and then problem solve as to how can they safely and responsibly work with their family and team to achieve that. So Lugene, we supported her for about 10 years. She lives in the house she grew up in. She's in her 70s. And when COVID impacted, one of the things that she told us after a couple months that she was really bummed about was that she didn't get to go to the beach or the lake anymore. We said, well, how can you do that? You can do that with a mask, with social distancing, for the places that are open. And so we made sure that she still has weekly opportunities to do that. So we've got pictures of her both pre-COVID and post-COVID. So again, we're looking at just essential routines for everyone, because we realize everybody, whether they're working at an essential job or not, everyone has essential routines in their lives. And we want to figure out how can people still have access to those things. Sharon's just another example of a person that attended traditional segregated day programs for over 50 years. And she also lives in the home she grew up in, and we began supporting her there. But during the pandemic, she was frustrated and wanted to know when her program, the day program, was going to open again. So we realized this is probably not a possibility, but we couldn't convince Sharon until we actually drove her by the old day program so that she could see it was completely closed down. And this gave her the opportunity to give notice to her program and the funding source to discontinue services. So now Sharon's excited that she actually has started her new day services, which are person-centered. with one-to-one supports in the community, very similar to the individualized person-centered supports she receives through supported living services. And she still does want to be picked up at the same time, but that's okay. That was able to be arranged. But she's just doing stuff in the community, and she's not looking back at going back to that kind of program experience she had for so long. And then David, David's someone we've supported for quite a while. David has worked at Ralph's Supermarket for 14 years as a courtesy clerk. Changes have always been difficult for Dave, and in mid-March, right after the COVID thing hit, David's supported employment agency notified him that they were discontinuing all in-person direct services and job coaching supports effective immediately. So David was predictably panicked, especially since he relied on having weekly on-site coaching services throughout his employment there. So instead of needing less support, David actually required more support in order to hold on to his long-term job serving his local community. He had to learn how to wear a mask and gloves, and that's one of the first pictures on the left. He wasn't wearing his mask very well, so we were still working on that. And learning how to social distance is really tough. Dave's a hugger, and learning how to social distance and not impulsively hug all his friends at the grocery store was really challenging. Took lots of coaching, and we stepped in and provided that daily coaching because in-person services were still very much needed for David. This whole idea that job coaching can be provided on the phone to everybody is ridiculous, and Zoom calls aren't enough. Zoom calls aren't enough to provide support to folks. People need in-person supports. They need to be able to get out safely and responsibly to re-engage in those community activities and routines. At least that's what we've seen, and that's what we're doing. So we provided that support to Dave. We helped to coach him how to be safe on the job, how to wear the mask, how to follow all the safety guidelines at his job. And we also determined early on that David needed coaches to take him to work instead of taking the bus, which is what he'd traditionally done. David used to take the bus, but he would get to work an hour early because he liked to hang out either at the Starbucks or the McDonald's near work. We had actually coached him over the years to do that so he wouldn't burn out all his coworkers before he worked, and sometimes that also caused a problem because the customers wouldn't recognize that he wasn't working yet, and they would ask him for help, and he would say, "Oh, I'm not working yet." So we directed him to go to either McDonald's or Starbucks before work and sort of hang out. Now, unfortunately, right recently through COVID, the dining areas were shut down. They still haven't been opened up, and he began getting anxious because he was told, "You can't stay here, you can't stay here." And the first week he actually started clocking out early because he was so anxious he couldn't handle it. So so what we did was we started taking him to work with a coach and had the coach available to him. And over the last 2 months, he has resumed taking the bus as he's got more confidence, and we're making sure that he doesn't get to work as early, but he's back to being a little bit more independent with some of his old routines. But for about 4 months there, we took it on ourselves to provide that additional support because that's what he needed to be successful. So Melanie, I'm going to turn it over to you for a sec. Would you like to share?
This is me at the food pantry. Putting food in bags so I can help other people out over there. Sheltering in my house for the first time, 2.5 months of the pandemic gave me time to focus in on many things like yoga and Pilates. There's me doing yoga. There's me doing Pilates. I was doing a little bit of yoga and Pilates.
And who's with you there modeling?
Kalea.
And who's she?
Susie's daughter.
Right. So Melanie, you live with you have your own place, and Susie and her daughter live with you, right?
Yes.
Yep. So I thought those are really cool pictures that she actually enjoys doing those things with you sometimes, right?
Yes, she does. My keto diet. For breakfast, I made 2 eggs, and bacon with pepper and salt. For lunch, I made grilled chicken with spinach leaves. For the desserts in the picture, I made them with no sugar, dark chocolate and butter, and keto raspberry cheesecake. There's me with the raspberry cheesecake I made. There's me with the dark chocolate with the almond butter. And there's me with my chicken salad, my keto chicken salad.
And you love variety, right?
Yeah. Here I am doing my crafts and my arts and crafts and making them for my own craft store. I hope to sell them again as a vendor at TASH and craft fairs when they open. There's me making different arts and crafts, stuff for Christmas. And there's a picture of me standing by the Christmas tree with my beautiful dress on and my necklace. And my sister compliments, she says, "You look beautiful, Melanie."
Yep, you look great, Mel. And every Saturday morning, what do you do?
Every Saturday morning, either what I do.
At 11 a.m., what do you do on Zoom?
I talk with Mom and Rob, and I talk with my Aunt Marion, and I talk with Steph sometimes. I talk with Claudia. I talk with you and Lori.
Yeah, you've got a big family Zoom call usually Saturday mornings, right?
Yes.
And you share your pictures and stuff from the week of things you did.
Yes. I took lots of walks and practiced social distancing, wearing a mask and sanitizing.
Oh, what did you want to show what you were doing there?
Yeah, I was in a CVS pharmacy waiting to pick up my meds. There's me at Todd Longshore Park. There's me up at the top of the hill.
All right, and Molly said that cheesecake that you made looks delicious.
Yeah, Molly. I can't believe she said that because, you know, I made the cheesecake from scratch.
Yep.
But I also miss getting a paycheck and volunteering in my community, shopping and doing things I enjoy. So Avenues coached me how to do these things safely and responsibly.
What are you doing there?
There's me at the in Santa Monica, at the pier in Santa Monica. In this picture, I'm doing something.
I think you're having lunch.
I'm having lunch.
Socially dining, and you got to take your mask off for that.
Yeah. And I'm there standing over by the water against the fence. I've been back working at the Avenues office, earning a paycheck since June. I take out the trash first thing. Then I file things, and I put the dates in order by the person's name, the client's names.
And then what do you do before you leave on the right?
I wiped down my office where I was working.
Awesome. And that way you're nice and safe and responsible, right?
Yes. Variety is important to me. I don't like working or volunteering at the same places every day, so I found which which of my volunteer jobs would let me back, and and found some new ones: Real Life Church, Santa Cruz Grocery Food Bank, CVS Food Pantry.
Okay, and those are things you do every week, right?
Yes.
And for everybody that's seen Melanie or heard Melanie present before, she really shares how you really share how variety is important to you. You don't like doing the same thing every day, right?
Right.
And so Melanie is always looking for new things. So, but during COVID, a few of the places that you used to volunteer, they're not able to have people back because they really don't have a safe area for people to volunteer like they used to. So you've had to find a few new places, right?
Yeah, that's right. I attend outdoor church service safely and responsibly. There's me at Real Life Church. Put my hands out, say a prayer, hearing the sermons and the singings and stuff and the talks. And when I learn about that, it's all about Jesus. Jesus comes into our hearts.
Awesome. Thanks, Mel.
I also took a COVID test to make sure my mom was safe during my Thanksgiving visit.
So since you get out, your mom is older, so she's really been staying sheltered down, right?
Yes.
So in order to make sure that she felt safe, since you've been out and about the community doing your jobs and other things and shopping, you took a COVID test just to make sure, just to help show her that you're being safe prior to having a nice Thanksgiving dinner with her, right?
And yeah, and for Christmas, I'm going to take another COVID test just to make sure everything is safe and nothing happens.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Mel.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so that's the last of your slides, but you may also have some questions when we end, okay? All right, so just some of the things that we've learned. It says, what are we happy about that's worked well in providing person-centered services in a pandemic world? And these are some things that we've talked a lot about within our state and with other providers and families. So some of the things we've learned is that we've assisted each person we support to learn and practice safe and responsible habits and skills in their homes and in the communities. And by meeting individually with families and teams, one person at a time, we've been able to assist them to identify essential and meaningful routines and volunteerism, and then to provide them with the coaching and supports they need to successfully re-engage in those essential routines. And then we've continued to coach and support people in their essential competitive integrated employment jobs, even while some agencies have stopped providing in-person coaching and supports. Other lessons we've learned is that congregate segregated day programs remain closed and will not open back up in the near future. They may never open up. They don't want to hear this, but that's a fact. Agencies will no longer be able to provide segregated large group services. Even if a vaccine does come out and is widely implemented by 2021, the HCBS, Home and Community-Based Services, final rule will disallow funding for segregated group services. All state agencies should have already been preparing for this. So this is an excellent opportunity, I think, for people to really look at person-centered services. We're having a lot of conversations in California where we're really saying, look, it's not about programs, it's about services. It's about person-centered services, and we need to be able to adapt our services. Again, we haven't had to adapt because that's what we've been doing, because we've been working with this TASH philosophy for quite a while, and it really works, and it especially works in times like now. Okay, and we still see some agencies are talking about we have to save the program, and no, I don't really believe that at all. We need to save services and individualize them for people and families so it makes sense. There's so many people and families that are sitting at home that all they've got is Zoom stuff, and that's just not okay. People need to be supported. how to re-engage in those essential routines. One of the things, another problem we've had in California is that while we've been providing in-person direct services to people, both in their homes and in the community, a lot of programs have continued to be paid to keep their staff at home. And some of them have done some creative Zoom kind of things, but the state, which has always had a lack of funds for our particular field, is now sort of double dipping. They're paying two agencies simultaneously to provide services. And I just think that's an inappropriate use of funds. I think that agencies by now should be adapting and providing person-centered services to people and figuring out ways that they can provide in-person support safely and responsibly, like the agencies that continue to provide residential and community living, supported living services have been doing. So for people without in-person services, segregated Zoom classes, phone calls, and coloring books aren't enough. We've had stories in California where agencies are able to get paid for day services simply by dropping off a coloring book on an adult's porch and saying, oh, we did our job, we gave them a coloring book. Okay, that's not okay. So having dropped off a tablet to someone at home in the spring is no longer newsworthy. We must work to assist each family and team to build trust in order to identify safe and responsible ways within their comfort zone to re-engage in their essential routines using individualized in-person supports, one person at a time. So 2 years from now, we've been asked, what do we see as the state of the state with supports and services? What will be the same? What will be different? My anticipation is that the home and community-based services rule will be fully implemented, that we will no longer have any funding within our state and hopefully other states to provide segregated services. People should be working, volunteering, learning, and recreating in their community safely and responsibly with the personalized, individualized supports they need, using competitive integrated employment, paid internship programs, which is something that we have available in California that allows people to be paid while they're interning for a business and hopefully get hired to that business. But either way, they're getting some experience and an opportunity to earn some money. And also through the self-determination program, that's SDP, and that is something that will be available to all Californians in 2021, that they no longer have to necessarily, they can hire a program, but they will have access to all of their sort of funding and be able to direct that where they choose, the person and their family. Services will be integrated, inclusive, and in the community safely and responsibly. Again, designed with the person's needs in mind, not the program's needs. All right. And there's one more slide I wanted to share. I'm gonna get out of this, I think. There we go. Okay, I wanted to just share one more slide and then we're gonna open it up if anybody's got any questions. For those of you that attend either TASH or CalTASH, you might have met Steve. Steve, when he's very happy, he makes a lot of noise. And Steve, also through COVID, has learned to do the masking, and he had a wonderful relationship for the last 10 years, getting a manicure and pedicure with the same gal at a business. And during COVID, over the last couple months, she opened up her home. She knows Steve. She said, hey, look, he probably needs a manicure, pedicure. Bring him over to my house and we'll do it. And so Steve is continuing that relationship with his manicurist, pedicurist gal. And she actually opened up her home for him to do that. And he gets masked up for that and he keeps it on. And so it's been very cool, but I just wanted to share that slide just sort of as another example. So someone asked, what is person-centered support? So there's a lot of long examples of that and short examples. Hopefully what I shared were some examples, but person-centered just means instead of focusing on the program needs, for example, Melanie and I are sort of representing Avenue Supported Living Services today. And instead of saying what's good for Avenues, we really are focusing on what's good for Melanie, what's good for the other people we support. And when we decide what services are important for people, we want to really individualize those services. If we have to realize that the I in IEP or IPP or ISP, the I stands for individualized. But so often, when we look at an IEP or an IPP for someone, if they're in the same program, they seem to have goals that look the same. And we want to make sure that everybody has unique goals based on their own likes and preferences, and that their services should be individualized. I think I've taken the most pride as we've supported people to move into their own places with the supports they need. And again, over half the people we support, closer to 2/3 now, need 24-hour support 7 days a week to be safe in their own place. And that's often provided through a team, obviously, but that team may include that they live with a housemate that splits the rent and utilities or the mortgage, things like that. Okay, but again, those supports, I'm really happy about the fact that everybody's life and lifestyle looks different, because everybody has their own preferences of how their lifestyle should be. I would be really embarrassed if everyone we supported, if everybody's life looked the same, because that means it wouldn't be individualized or person-centered. So anyhow, I hope that answers part of your question on person-centered supports, and hopefully that's something you're going to get from all the sessions that you're going to see here at the TASH conference. All right, and we still have, okay. And if you've got some questions, go ahead and type them in. We sort of, we usually talk longer, but this time we've got some time for question and answers. Melanie, you want to come on for a sec? You've got a comment here. So Serena says she's envious of your social and recreational life.
I socialize with a lot of people.
Yeah, she says she would love to have that in her life too. So she's really jealous. She says you've really got a lot of good things going on in your social and recreational life.
Yeah, I go out with different people, and we go out to the park and stuff to walk. I do 10 laps.
Yeah, and you have to do that since the gym's closed down in California, right?
Yeah, and it's really sad that the gym is closed down.
And you still keep touch with a lot of your friends on social media, and you've even had some socially distanced visits with some of your friends too, right?
Yeah.
Like with Gail?
Yeah. She comes over to my mom's house. We went out to eat, and we went over to she takes me to nature places.
Mm-hmm.
I like nature places.
Awesome. And Gail's seen your presentations in person. So Gail says hello. So it was great to see you, Melanie. Yes. Gail, I always call Gail Fanjoy's agency our sister agency in Maine. We're on the West Coast, he's on the East Coast, but it's amazing how, when I hear stories of what the lives of people that Gail has been involved with have look like, they're very parallel to a lot of the lives of people that I've been fortunate enough to spend time with. And so it's always really nice to sort of catch up with what's going on over there. Yeah. All right. Okay. So, and Jenny says you look great. All right. So good, Mel. You got a lot of good comments in there if you're able to read through them.
Yeah, let me tell you, these people that signed up to hear me, they heard a wonderful presentation.
Yep. Okay, I think they did. All right. Well, anyhow, I really hope that this encourages people to want to really spend the time to speak with families and teams, and that includes staff too, and engage everyone's comfort level, and do a little bit of nudging to say, what are those essential routines that are missing? One of the things that we we actually asked at our, we have a sort of we're able to do a staff meeting on Zoom now, and we include everybody we support at our staff meetings. But one of the questions we asked midway through this thing is, what are people missing? Okay, what are people missing as a result of these COVID restrictions in our local communities and states and things, and how can we help people to access those things they're missing safely and responsibly? And again, I think that would be just something for each team. Look at what are people missing and how can we sort of provide that. And we've been doing this for a lot of our staff. A lot of our staff have children that are still in school, and they're missing a lot. They're missing their friends. And so we've actually done some work also with how can we help some of the child age folks, how can we help them to get together safely and responsibly, not just on the Zoom thing, but one person at a time. How can we do some events where people can see each other once a week and do something safely and responsibly? And we're really working on opportunities for that, whether it's an outdoor dining thing that you get a chance to do in areas where that's permitted, and doing that with a peer. But again, identify what's missing in people's lives and then attack the problem. Again, and then the problem is, how can we do things safely and responsibly in a way where people aren't freaked out that we're moving too fast? And again, each team is a little different. Some families are very comfortable of having their folks at home, but again, people also need a little bit of vitamin D. They need to be outside. And sometimes what we've done with some families that have kept their adult children at home is, just saying, hey, maybe you need our help to come over and help you figure out what facial protection the person will tolerate and how to socially distance and things like that. And so we've done that with everyone we support, in addition to other people that we've had contact with through the years, just to help people sort of get over that hump to where they're able to re-engage in some of their essential routines. And Melanie, thanks for sharing how you've been able to get back safely and responsibly in your essential routines.
Well, you're welcome.
All right, so everybody have a wonderful rest of the conference. And Melanie, did you see where 2021, where they're hoping to have the TASH conference if things open up?
No, I didn't see.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. I want to go so bad. I'll have to tell my mom. New Orleans.
Okay, so let's hope everything, all the restrictions are lifted so we can go. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Oh, and Sherry Beamer's there. Great to hear from you, Sherry. All right. Okay, so everybody have a great rest of the conference, and we'll talk to you all later.
Scott and Melanie, thank you so much for your informative and inspiring presentation. And I thank everybody else for joining us today. We'll be starting our break very shortly here, and then we can all come back for the next program. Thank you so much.